Welcome to Kids Ask. My guest today is Consul General to the United States of America, Darion Akins, who is the ambassador's representative to the German states of Hamburg, Lower Saxony, Bremen, Schleswig-Holstein, and Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania. I had the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Akins last year. If you'd like to listen to that episode, it is entitled Episode 11, Meet Our Diplomats with Darion Akins. I am delighted to welcome Mr. Akins to this segment of Kids Ask. Welcome, Mr. Akins.
Thank you very much, Dr. Untis. It's my pleasure to be here. I've really been looking forward to this session.
So the kids asking the questions are fifth graders from Gymnasium Grootmoor here in Hamburg. They were helped by their magnificent and dedicated English teachers, Dr. Dagmar Wegner and Susanne Wolfinger. Mr. Akins, before we begin, I know you're from Texas, so I have here my very first cowboy hat. This is from the 80s. I used to wear this at Texas A&M. So, I thought I would ask you the questions with my cowboy hat.
All right. Now I have one question for you.
All right.
Did you wear this cowboy hat to the hall, which is the square dancing facility just outside of the city?
Well, I don't actually know. I mean, I was 13 when we were in Texas, so I don't know if I wore it to the hall, but we went square dancing. My parents took me square dancing. I know that. I remember that. So I don't know.
More than likely, it was at the hall. More than likely.
There you go. There you go.
I like the hat though, really.
I'd love to go back. I mean, I don't think it's a kid's hat. It fits me perfectly now, but I really wore this hat. So let's see. Let's start off. I have 3 questions that relate directly to your job.
How did
you get
into your current job?
Is your job exciting and are you happy with it?
How long do
you work a day?
Wow. Okay. So how did I get into my job? It was an adventure and a journey. I was initially a Peace Corps volunteer in Zambia from 1995 to 1998, and became friends with a person who worked at the embassy, who thought that perhaps that was a career that I might be interested in, meaning becoming a diplomat. But at the time, I was relatively young, and I took the seed, but I didn't plant it. And it wasn't until a few years later that I then decided to take the exam and try to become a diplomat. And so a few years later, I did that. Do I like it? Absolutely. I love what I do. It's exactly, I didn't know exactly when I was young what I particularly wanted to do, but I did know I wanted to work overseas. I wanted to work with people. And so this provided the perfect opportunity to do that. What is my normal workday like? Or how long do I work? I think that was the question. Typically, we will definitely work an 8-hour day, but it also depends on what's happening. If there is some particular issue that is pressing, for example, if we have a high-level visit, then we work the number of hours that are necessary. So typically, we work a normal average workday, but there are times when there are pressing issues. If Washington has questions that it needs answered immediately, then we work until we get that done.
Thank you very much. I have a question now about politics from Frederic, Livia, Matilda, and Lena.
Which American president from the past do you admire the most?
Wow.
It's a difficult question.
That is. And I'm going to go with a typical answer, but I'll explain why. I admire Abraham Lincoln, perhaps the most, because he was able to, or he's been given credit for saving the Union. So of course, everyone knows that the United States fought a civil war, in the 1860s, and President Lincoln was credited with saving the Union, and I think that's what his stock rises with me because of that. Because I think that we could have ended up at a minimum 2 different nations, and we didn't because of his efforts and his work.
Great answer. Next off, I have 2 very difficult questions, but I'm sure you'll be able to answer them. The kids were great. They came up with these.
Well, we love it, right? We love the inquiring minds.
How do you feel about American politics?
As a diplomat, what do you do when you disagree with something the president is doing?
So what do I think about American politics? To be honest, I know that there are people around the world who are a bit concerned with American politics at the moment. What they see is a situation that maybe they believe there's a lot of tension and a lot of fighting. My view of this is a little bit different. I see it generally as a positive thing, and here's why. I think in an effective democracy, a functioning democracy, you're hearing lots of opinions and lots of voices, and you're clearly hearing those in the United States right now. But that's good. And if we look at it over the long run, what typically will happen is that eventually we will coalesce around a solution for particular issues and or problems, and then we will move forward. And so that's the process that I see happening in the States right now. When people see it as being the most contentious, the funny part is when the democracy is usually trying to figure out exactly where it's going and is working the best. So that's why I think it's rather interesting and a positive development that we're hearing lots of different voices, and it indicates the democracy is functioning.
And the second part of the question, as a diplomat, what do you do when you disagree with something the president is doing?
Oh, I was trying to politely forget that part of the question. No.
Well, when
No.
we did our interview, you said that you would remember my name, Henriette, because I was Henri.
No. So it isn't my position to disagree with the president. The president, he or she, has been duly elected by the American people. And so long as they've been duly elected by the American people, it is my job to carry out his or her policies as they see fit. And it does happen rarely, if a diplomat is in disagreement with a policy to the point that they believe they cannot carry out that policy, then actually it's part of the process that we should remove ourselves from that situation. And sometimes that requires that we resign our positions. And that has happened in the past when someone disagrees policy-wise with the president's policy.
And I think it's an interesting question from kids, because we do separate our private persona from the person we are in our job. And especially as a diplomat, you have your personal opinions or affiliations or whatever, and that's for you as a person. And in your job as a diplomat, you're representing the country and the administration that is in power.
Correct. And so that's the other thing for people to be aware of, is that diplomats will often say we are apolitical, which means as we conduct our jobs as diplomats, we do not side with one party or another party. What's important to us is, again, if we have a duly elected president, then we're carrying out the duly elected president's policies, because that president has been elected by the American people.
And I guess that's also the difference between a politician and a diplomat, in a way.
Correct.
Right? But I think that's the really hugely important role of diplomats, to unite, right, and to make things understood. And I think that's the distinction. It's an important distinction.
Correct.
So The following question is about your childhood.
Aha.
Do you
I had one of those.
Did you have a favorite cuddle animal as a child? If so, what was it?
Not that I recall. If I ask my mother, she may disagree with me, but there's nothing that jumps out into my memory like, oh, I remember, cuddles. No, not that anything that jumps out in my mind. What I've been told, because I don't remember this, I was too young. I was told that I was particularly close to my cat when I was relatively young. We had one, but I don't remember it. I was so young that I don't remember having this cat.
Did you have a favorite, I don't know, a favorite car or a favorite something else that you just had to have in bed or had to have with you, or a blankie or anything like that?
I think at one point I did have a favorite blanket. I think I did. But again, I don't remember much about it. But I'm almost certain, because the reason why I say that is I vaguely recall my mother has saved some blanket, and I think that was it.
Okay, and last but not least, perhaps the most important question of them all.
What do you like more, pizza or hamburgers?
Ooh, that's tough. I gotta say both. No, I'm not. I would be hard pressed. No, I ate both religiously as a college student.
And now?
Yeah, but
And now
if
as
you
well?
now, I would say I would prefer a pizza over a hamburger. Yeah, but I
Okay.
think when I was growing up, I was, either one was perfectly fine with me.
And so do you eat American food at your house?
I have a multicultural house, so we eat lots of different foods, but most of it is actually Japanese because my spouse is Japanese, so she prepares mostly Japanese food, but we do also have American cuisine as well.
Thank you, Mr. Akins, for joining us. The kids had so many questions, and you've been so gracious answering their questions. So we've invited you for another segment of Kids Ask, and we will air that in a couple of months. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's absolutely been my pleasure.